everyone. Today we have our another new episode and we will discuss on the transhumanist politics. We have our transhumanist presidential candidate, Mr. Tom Rose, vice presidential candidate, Mr. Daniel. We have our new friends, Madam Mora, and Mr. David Smith. First, I would like to give just Mr. Tom Rose.
Thanks, Sharif, for doing this. We're going to do a series every Tuesday now throughout the campaign. There may be some gaps, but what I wanted to talk about today was our campaign, but also transhuman politics in general. And I think I can start by just listing some of the initiatives that I put forward in my primary campaign, and just to give a foreshadow of future shows. And if any of these interest any of you, we can talk about them in detail. The first one is called Unite and Rule, and it's about breaking the political paradigms that have never served us, like divide and conquer. And we did that with our primary campaign. Instead of having debates where we would mudsling sound bites at each other, we had roundtables and problem-solving sessions. The next one is End Child Exploitation, which is why I identify as a transhuman. I was able to read the Constitution and Bill of Rights years ago and found that they have clauses in that Constitution that serve my cause, which is ending child exploitation. The third one would be Singularity Secretary, and this is a new cabinet seat I'm proposing because the Democrats and Republicans don't meet the minimum system requirements for what's coming our way with the economic singularity and the technological singularity. And so we need a whole cabinet seat in the executive branch dedicated to focusing on all the ancillary issues that this will bring up. The fourth one is called Joining the Galactic Economy. Now, the military-industrial complex is going with the narrative that extraterrestrials or interdimensionals are a threat. And we need to shift. We need to flip that script. We need to talk about how I think, David, you might want to mute. So we need to talk about how to flip the script. And if they're going to go with this narrative, we need to prepare human beings, Americans in particular, for this paradigm-breaking disclosure that's coming our way, and work towards how do we join this galactic economy. There's ways to do that. The fifth one is called Audit the Elite, and this is a mandatory third-party audit of all federal officials by a third party, not the IRS. And this would allow us to really look closely at where the money is coming from, and to some of these federal officials, some of these Congress people. You know, are they getting paid by the oligarchs under the table? Are they getting paid by the gun lobbyists under the table? It's easy to hide money when they put out their financial statements, but if we had if we made public the audits of these federal officials for public scrutiny, we'd be able to find out where the money's coming from and maybe put an end to a lot of this dark money. The next one is called Defending Digital Democracy, and this is about the algorithms that are hurled at us by enemies, foreign and domestic, whether they're authoritarian regimes internationally that are sending in these divide and conquer algorithms into us to split us from within, or our social media companies that are putting us in bubbles to increase engagement with fear and anger. And so there's a whole initiative to, first of all, educate people that this is happening, and then to have counterattacks, have a moonshot style counter offensive against these algorithms. The next one is called Humane Farming, and this is really based on the work of David Pierce. And it's about getting rid of slaughterhouses and doing research and giving financial initiatives to farmers to try different things, more humane ways of providing us with our food. Next one is called AI Personhood, and this is about giving legal rights to artificial intelligence. And this is a kind of a leapfrog approach. Even if it never achieves sentience or sapience or personhood, however we define it, by giving an AI, and once we identify it as having agency, and we define that, giving it legal rights will mean that a human developer will face serious consequences if they program it to hurt other humans or mistreat it in any way. So by having these entities, we give human rights to human beings that offer very little to society just because they're humans. Well, if we know that AI is already giving a lot to society, And so by granting it legal rights, it'll protect us from ourselves. The next one is called We the Simulated People. And this is because the simulation hypothesis is gaining a lot of traction and being taken very seriously by some very serious thinkers. And so if this is the case, this initiative will allow more research toward that end. It will, if this is a simulation, if we are finding that we are in some kind of matrix, then how will that affect politics and business and education and all of that? So it's a real initiative to look closely at this. Now it may just be the way the universe works, with the Fibonacci codes, and it's just the way this universe works. But we should find that out, and quickly, because it will have a lot of effects on how we live together. The next one is called Mythematics, and this is based on the method that I used to write my book for AI, US 6. And it's kind of if we do find out that this is a simulation or it's some version of a simulation, then this process that I came up with to write the books for AI should be incorporated into curriculum, because it lets people know how to identify the fact that they are in their own matrix or simulation. And that's what happened to me with this book. And so there's an initiative to add this to curriculum, or ideas like this into curriculum, so that young people can begin to identify what's going on here. And the last one is called AI Educators. And this is the idea of giving public school kids from 1st grade through 12 their own AI companion, their own AI tutor, which will learn them and identify their core capacities and help them with subjects that they have trouble with, or and really hone in on their core capacities and find those unique human skill sets that can't be coded or automated, and eventually show them a path towards a career. That would be the payoff. If AI is going to be displacing us, and automation is going to be displacing so many good people, we should use AI to help us find a whole new economy based on these core human capacities that we have. And so that's the gist of most of the initiatives that I put forward. I know Daniel's got a bunch that we're going to be looking at. And so that's kind of a precursor to some of the ideas we can talk about in this series.
Thank
Should
you,
I go
Mr.
next?
Tom. Now,
Oh,
yes.
No.
Yeah, I'm greatly happy to be running on the Transhumanist Party platform with such a distinguished candidate, Tom Ross. And we're starting early, so we've got all kinds of great lead time to really make a lot of great initiative deployments between now and November 5th, 2024. Mark your calendars, people, because I think, this is like probably the most fraught election of the duopoly in history. I mean, neither the red or the blue teams are are happy with their teams. It's truly the election season of the independent voter. There's so many interesting third party actors on the stage. RFK Jr. is saying amazing things about the corporate takeover of our government, and that resonates so strongly with people on all parts of the political compass. And I think this is the age of transformation of language and thought and philosophy. This is no less momentous, I think, than going from spoken language to written language, or from written language to Gutenberg movable type language production and dissemination. It's really going to be an era of just, in the next matters of months, we're going to see tectonic levels of change in the economy and democracy. And we have to get ahead of this if we don't want to be enslaved by it. There's an old saying, I must create my own system or be enslaved by somebody else's system. And here in the American continent, we have a genetic history of running away from tyranny, of being independent and seeking freedom and expansion. I think the core parts of the futurist moment are space migration, intelligence increase, and life extension. And the Transhumanist Party platform embodies all of these. it's interesting because we can't depend on outside agencies to guarantee our freedoms and our rights. We have to really become kind of almost our own James Bond as far as our use of technology and not being tyrannized. With computing power, I mean, there's so many bad actors out there that are going to have so much access to unexpected information about how to do bad things that I'm surprised, we haven't had more adverse, catastrophic kinds of things happen already. But be prepared. I mean, we already saw the COVID pandemic. I mean, what if that had been spread by mosquitoes, which fortunately it wasn't, or what if it had been airborne Ebola, which fortunately it wasn't. I mean, we know that the elites have been circulating plans about very large population drawdowns that they think are necessary for the environment, or they've got all kinds of excuses and ways to have plausible deniability. I mean, they could actually have a plandemic, where it's not our fault, it's just a natural thing, and everyone's dying, and now all the wealth is ours, and now all of you guys are our slaves. I mean, we have to be mindful of outcomes like this. They could fake things like extraterrestrial interventions in our civilization. There's all kinds of scenarios that we need to be at least aware of and at least planning for on some level. Now, I think the best way to plan for this is, to create these what I call micro hyperlocal kind of a synthesis, global local, but the Dunbar communities. The Dunbar number is interesting because there was a primate researcher, anthropologist named Robin Dunbar at Oxford, and he found out that there's about 150 people that you can form a close relationship with during an average lifetime. And most people live their lives, maybe they're lucky if they have one close friend or a couple close friends, but we really need to think about who is in our tribe that we really would sit down at a restaurant if we saw them and just not even ask permission. We'd say, "Hey, how you doing?" Just that's the level of closeness that we're talking about. That's in your Dunbar circle. Now, it's an interesting number, 150, because the average neighborhood block has about 150 people. And how wonderful would it be if those people that lived on your block also happen to be your Dunbar tribe? I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it could. It might be worth something to shoot for. There's an old thing about we're all 6 handshakes away from Kevin Bacon, the Kevin Bacon effect. Like, someone that knows someone that knows someone 6 times out that knows Kevin Bacon. So AI would be great at kind of applying that 6 degrees of separation effect to your Dunbar tribe number. Now, another thing we're finding out is that most people hate their jobs. I think there's a survey that says 70% of people hate their jobs. But, you got to pay the rent, you got to pay the bills, you got to, do something, put food and keep the wolf from the door and the roof overhead. But we can also, create microgrids of different economies and different kinds of resilience. We can have food security by growing food instead of lawns on the average block. We can do things like have sliding scale pricing for goods, where we price things in minutes of someone's overall income instead of dollars. And this would eliminate structural inequality. There's a plan worked out for this called hours equals price coin that's been very well worked out as part of the Chasing Genius challenge that National Geographic did a couple of years ago. So that's one thing I would roll out. Tool libraries. Libraries should be loaning out any tool you need. We should have, cars are mostly sitting idle most of the time. You can have these zip cars where you just use them and drop them off, and there's an app, that unlock the car with your phone. And then cars can also become parts of a microgrid. They have batteries, they can feed back to the grid. So all kinds of, great resilience technologies are possible. One thing I'm a big fan of is seasteading, the idea of creating free, voluntary societies in the ocean. And it's becoming more feasible with things like these bobbing duck's head wave generators that create energy from the wave motion, and they also damp the wave motion behind it. Anyway, that's a an X Prize project, a team I'm working with that wants to create a belt along the equator of seasteads that would also sequester carbon out of the atmosphere by growing kelp and things like fish and cannabis and fast-growing crops, papyrus, make the stuff into products. And so, yeah, we need to like digitally twin all these ideas. We can make robust computer simulations of anything we're proposing, and we can run it up among our neighbors, have communication nets that don't depend on the cell phone grids and the internet, which are very vulnerable to all kinds of ways that could go send them offline. So I'm happy to be incorporating a lot of these kinds of ideas into the vice presidential run with Tom and I, our campaign. And I'll be open for more ideas. I think I've probably talked too long already. So that's just some opening thoughts.
Thank you. Mora, what you want to share about transhumanist politics?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, Dr. Sharif, Tom, and Daniel for having me today. I see colleagues from around the world, so hello, everybody, for joining. The first thing that I want to say for Tom and Daniel, that when I read in their page everything, the 11 points, I felt really identified with them. So first thing I want to say is I back up the campaign, not 100%, but 200%. Because when I read all the different topics, to me comes the word of synergy, collaboration, education, having a tribe, a family, freedom of expression. So to me, it is so important nowadays. To me, I'm new into transhumanism, I have to say, but the group has really welcomed me as a family, part of the tribe. I feel really into it, and I'm here to learn more and more. Regarding politics, they're essential, but with transhumanism is education. Education is key. Education is power. So what I'm working with Tom, with Daniel in the group, in the campaign is understanding the why, understanding why people have fear, understanding the ideas and the educational piece, and how can we bring more peace of mind to the people with the benefits towards transhumanism. We don't want to just preach this movement for people that are set of their minds. There are people already have set up their minds, and we're respectful about this. What we realize is that we want to wake up and tell other members like me that this is a place where we can exchange ideas, where we can feel safe. I'm going to use the word safe of space, and no matter in what level you are, beginner, intermediate, or more advanced level, you have a shared space with this topic. So from my point, I want to just invite to all of us, and no matter in what part of the journey you are, get involved. Let's get more into the campaign, understanding the why, understanding where we're heading together, because we do have a say. And Tom and Daniel are pretty open for ideas. That's why we want to continue collecting all your thoughts or your feedback, because it's not about one or two or three groups. It's about the unity. It's about moving forward the transhumanism movement. That is at the core. That is the advancement and the movement of the party.
Thank you. Mr. Tom Rose, like, as you're running as a presidential candidate for Transhumanist Party, uh, why you choose Transhumanist Party? What is
Well,
the issue behind that? Yeah.
yeah. Well, originally, I came to, I don't remember how I got a hold of this Constitution, but I had a 6-hour drive ahead of me. And so I downloaded it onto a PDF reader, and the whole Constitution, the Bill of Rights. It took about 6 hours to get through it. But and at this time is when I had written US 6, which is primarily and ultimately about ending child exploitation. It's about creating empathy in AI to join this fight, to enlist it in this fight against child exploitation. And I was listening to the Constitution, and there are clauses in there that speak to my cause specifically. And so I came into transhumanism and the Transhumanist Party differently than most people. A lot of people come into it because they want to live longer, or they want to upload their consciousness. So there's a lot of reasons people come into the movement and to the party. Primarily, it's about longevity. But I came into it because this is the only party that that was speaking seriously about my cause, which was ending child exploitation. And so there's clauses and sections in the Constitution that would solve a lot of my issues, and that's how I came into it. I reached out to Zoltan, who referred me to Gennady, and on my birthday and February 19th and 2019, I think it was, I got a gift of being awarded an officership in the party, and eventually I became the director of sentient rights advocacy, and that was perfectly aligned with my work towards AI and my book being written for AI. And so it was just a grand kind of scheme that kind of unfolded for me. And so that's what brought me into it. And so again, I say often that there's as many people that identify as transhuman as there are people that identify as transhuman. There's all kinds of reasons to come into this movement, whether you're into vertical farming or you're into some of the stuff that Daniel's in. Now, Daniel was my opponent in the primary. And, I say, hey, one way we could break this paradigm of divide and rule is to name my opponent as my vice president, right? But if you could see by his ideas, it's more of a selfish act for me to bring him on. Sure, it breaks some paradigms, but his ideas are already off and running, and we're really excited about this campaign. And Mora is an excellent addition to our tribe. So happy she's here. A lot of energy, a lot of organizational skills, and she's really bringing a whole new invigoration to the campaign and to the party in general. But yeah, this whole campaign, we know we won't be walking into the White House. I say this all the time, and maybe I shouldn't say it. Any political consultant would say, stop saying this, but we know we're not going to walk into the White House in January of 2025. That's not what this is about. This is more of a marketing campaign for transhumanism. We are going to use this campaign to share ideas because we will see a lot of displacement. A lot of the AI takeover will move people out of good jobs. And so we're going to be using this campaign to share ideas, a lot of like Daniel's ideas, a lot of ways for people to if they get laid off or they get thrown out of a job or they're facing homelessness, we want to offer solutions. And that's how we are going to put the human back in transhuman. We're going to just, instead of focusing on all the negative perceptions of transhumanism, we're just going to dig in, work hard, offer real world solutions, and show what transhumanism really is. There's a whole genre on YouTube of, the transhumanists have a dark agenda. We're paving the way for the Antichrist, or the AI is the Antichrist, and all this stuff. And that's kind of a guilty pleasure. I like watching that stuff. It's kind of cool, but it's not real. And so what we're going to do with this campaign is offer serious solutions and focus on the why I came into transhumanism is ideas of helping children. There's so many reasons to identify as transhuman, and really, if you wear glasses or if you're using a computer or a cell phone, if you use a Post-it note, by definition, you are a transhuman. Without our technology, like clothing, we naked apes would be extinct within a generation or less. We are our technology. That's the only way we survived. And thanks to technology and thanks to fear, we became to the top of this food chain on this planet. And so, but fear is over-serving us now. Fear is now, we're identifying threats that aren't really there. And so that's a big part of this campaign, is to just show people how we can offer real world solutions should they need them.
Dr. Sharif and Tom, I just want to expand a little bit with what Tom is saying is about the journey, not the destination. So that's at the core, because yes, we're learning so much together as a group. So the collection of ideas that we're gathering are priceless. I want to just add that. The second thing is, thank you, Tom and Daniel, for your words regarding my backing up the campaign and my work as volunteer. But I really mean it. You get enthusiastic, you get energetic when there are things that move you. And I believe what we're doing is an aim bigger than oneself. It's the movement of advancing transhumanism. So I really appreciate the words, but yes, no, that my energy comes because of the campaign, because I identify my core values with the campaign. And the transhumanism page, I just say to everybody that is new in the beginning, the middle, or advanced, is a great resource of information. Lots of videos, lots of content that you can get a hold of, and plenty to do. And it's true, the movies, the TVs are not really helping us. At the same time, I try to capture the positive. At least they're showing a little bit, and people might feel intrigued about it. And with that intrigue, we might find the people like me that knew that we had a place, but we didn't know where it was. So I just want to say that comments on you, Tom, on your feedback.
Yeah, there's so much more that we can agree upon that binds us than what separates us. We agree that using evidence-based policies, make them as voluntary as possible, to improve the human condition. The libertarian movement is an awfully wide net too. I was involved. I consider myself part of the libertarian movement. But that is anyone that wants to have more individual freedom is technically, part of that movement. So anyone that wants to use technology to improve the human condition is part of the transhumanist movement. Now, inside that, you've got all kinds of categories and divisions. You've got atheists, agnostics, Gnostics, pantheists. There's a huge spectrum of actors within this big tent. So we are here to do evidence-based, voluntary-based policy transformation work, and looking forward to it. Didn't mean to jump in there too much.
Yeah, this should be just an open conversation. We shouldn't have to necessarily go in order unless you want to.
Yeah. Mr. Tom, I have a question for you. Like, when you joining for the Transhumanist Party, now you are running for presidential candidate, and Transhumanist Party is not main extreme political party in USA. So definitely this is very challenging. And
Yeah.
second thing, like when you contributing for the politics, it has lot of issues right now. Especially the world has a lot of challenges, especially relationship with the USA and USA leaderships and their management and the control around the world has a lot of challenges right now. So how do you think, like, what is the problem for US politics? How we can the world can play a role right now?
Yeah. Well, and you're right, and we have a lot of challenges. We even as the party, we have a lot of challenges with just our name. The whole prefix of trans is we're finding is an issue, which is weird. But that's why we're here. That's why I'm here. I love a challenge, and so to be the nominee for this party, which faces so many challenges, it just gets me up in the morning. It's about rebranding. I was a creative director for years, a couple of decades, and that was my thing. I love to take a company and rebrand it. I've done that with the companies I worked for. And so that's kind of my what gets me up in the morning again is this opportunity to seize back the transhumanist narrative, to wrestle it away from these people that think we have a dark agenda. To me, that's a good challenge. And that's, I think, why we're here in general. This is a obstacle course for higher consciousness, if you will, this whole human experience, and so that's why we're here. I think it's there's not a whole lot of payoff at the end, other than you maybe shine a little brighter in the afterlife, but yeah, there's a lot of challenges. And even like we were talking before, between Bangladesh and the US, we have for some reason issues that we need to overcome. And a lot of that is about whoever the American president is to stop being so American pocentric, if you will, to we're not the greatest country. We fall short on a lot of these metrics of, and so we got to, although we are the largest, military, and we're certainly a superpower, we were kind of controlling things. We need to be more empathetic. We need to reach out. We need to understand that why we are in this position. other than, our being landlocked and really secure geographically and geologically, is why we're here, why this American experiment has flourished isn't because of these borders, isn't because of our military. It's because we are made up of earthlings from all over the world. We are the mutts of the world, as like Bill Murray's Stripes monologue is a great one. We were kicked out of every great country in the world, or we fled tyranny, and that's in our DNA here. And we're not just white men. Granted, I am, but most of us are here because we had wanderlust, or we were adventurous, or our forefathers, our generations before us wanted to either escape tyranny or they wanted to just get out in the world. That's what America's made up of. And this is an experiment. It's the only country I know of that was built on an idea, toward a more perfect union. And so we need to remember that. And there's so many authoritarian regimes out there that are trying to bring us down. And they're getting really close to it right now. I mean, whether it's Russia or China or these authoritarian, well, not China so much, but these authoritarian regimes want us to fall from within. And they're getting very close to that with these algorithms and with some of these movements that, it's really threatening us. It's a dangerous time right now for America and for the world, by that matter. I mean, a lot of people complain about globalism, but I did a post or an article a couple of weeks ago about, would you rather, if globalism is the way it's moving, so would you rather America, who is made up of earthlings from all over the world, being that system, or China or Russia, or one of these authoritarian regimes? We got to really be brave about what we are and what we represent. And, but we're kind of following the path of Rome right now with this whole, building up the military and kind of rotting from within. But there's a way to turn the tide still. And it's all about the dignity of being a human, the dignity of helping each other. And I think that pendulum is swinging, and we're just trying to get in front of that pendulum right now as the Transhumanist Party. To like with this campaign, we're going to offer some real world solutions. We know that there's going to be a lot of displacement, although I'm very pro AI, pro automation. I, as a creative director, can't really get back into that work because my work has been taken over by AI. So I've got to practice what I preach. And so I'm focusing on the human skill sets that I have that can't be coded or automated yet. And so it's a real challenge for me. I am an example of what I am preaching, and so that's what we're going to do with this campaign. We're really going to help people as much as we can and help ourselves by coming up with ideas to avoid homelessness, or if you are homeless, how to help you, and just getting the dignity back into our culture. But it's also it's really important to have an international perspective. I mean, I look at people in my hometown who never really left. And I left when I was 17, 18, couldn't wait to see the world. I went all over the world between then and now. And but the people that are still there never really left unless they went to see a grandmother or something somewhere. And most of them are very conservative, or politically, or they have enlarged amygdalas, or there's a thing that there's a biochemical or biophysical reason that a lot of these people are still conservative or fearful, and you can't really break through a lot of that. But it's, I haven't written one up yet, but I'm thinking of an initiative. It's kind of like the Peace Corps, but it's a way to get young people out of their country or out of their hometowns for a little while to see how other people live. I think it's so important to get a broader perspective. And that will, when I was young, when I moved to Europe, I was 19 or so, and I was very anti-Reagan, at the time, but I felt I came back with kind of a pride for being an American. I realized people hated our politics, but they loved our culture. And so I found a lot of pride in being an American when I would leave, despite what was going on with Reagan at the time. And so there's a good there's good for both conservative and liberal families to get out in the world, and whether you come back just with a broader perspective, or you come back with a more sense of patriotism, you realize how good we have it here. And so it's a very important thing, and I think I will write up an initiative toward that end.
I wanted to say that I can confirm everything you're saying. I was born in Cuba, dictatorship, grew up in Ecuador. Now I live in the United States. This country has welcomed me. When I was 12, I said, one day I'll be American citizen. I became American citizen. But when people ask me, where are you from? I said, I'm universal. We're all one. And to me, what the Transhumanism Party brings is unity. If I have to define with one word, it's unity. Uniting everybody together, no matter where you are located. How many times have you asked yourself, what if I was born here or there? We were born when we were born, but we are moving around. And the world is just one piece, right? So I just want to invite us all to discover new places. I have had also people that have never left for certain areas or certain countries. And it's really, the mentality is really close in comparison to other people that have seen the world, that has experience, that has traveled. But even if you cannot travel, I do invite us all to review what other countries are doing. Take a look at their national anthem. Take a look at their culture, their dance, and you feel closer to the world. The Wanderlust, a German term, Wanderlust, is extreme desire of adventure and explore and travel. So I think one of the things as humans and transhumans is the continuation of learning about cultures, about the world, about the diversity, and understanding that we're one no matter where we are. We all want the same happiness. We want freedom. We want to collaborate, to work in synergy. So I just want to make sure that you know that, to me, I repeat it again, that the future is empathetic. This party is empathetic. This party brings unity to the world, not only inside the United States, but to the world.
I'd like to jump in on that if I can. You've heard the phrase, the American experiment. And I think that's what we're more an experiment than a country. Okay. We're not so great as a country or a nation, but we're awesome as an experiment because we use the scientific method. We're always trying to falsify what doesn't work. And the famous physicist Richard Feynman gave a commencement address at Caltech in 1974. And he said, you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. So that's something you always have to keep in mind when you're a scientist gathering evidence and doing an experiment. And that's why I love the Transhumanist Party, because it treats the more perfect union as an evidence-backed experiment that we're constantly trying to falsify with better uses of the information. And now we got the AI looming issue. And there's a part of the information revolution that has still not completely come to fruition, and that's the geolocation part. And that's what I think is really going to be interesting in this neighborhood-based experiment. There's a app that anyone can download on an old cell phone. It's called What 3 Words, and it actually names every 3 meter by 3 meter square of the Earth with 3 dictionary words. Just kind of, it's a random database assignment. The one I'm sitting on is evening aviation ends. It sounds like a story prompt or something for AI. In fact, friend of mine put the Dolly, used it as a picture prompt for Dolly. So, and then there's another app that lets your cell phone text to another cell phone that's within range, like 500-foot range. So what I'm envisioning is that, we stakeholders can improve our decision making. We can adopt these actual squares of our civilization, our biosphere, and say, oh, look what I'm doing with this. I'm growing food here. I'm testing the soil here. I'm counting the birds here. We can do these citizen science experiments that can add up to the even bigger American experiment. So that's why I'm so excited about this 2024 candidacy. And you know what? Don't rule out. We could say we're not going to walk into the White House, but we can still hope we will. It's like,
yeah, I'll stop saying that. But I just want to make it clear, I'm not delusional. But although
we
being
might walk in
delusional,
as guests,
yeah, delusional isn't necessarily a disqualifier, for being president, apparently.
Yeah, so look for a lot of community-based information experiments that are backed up, in ways that don't depend on big centralized infrastructure, because that's what survives and when times are stressed and when
and we're looking for ideas too. This is an open source campaign. If you've got a project that you work on that you think would help people if they get displaced from a job or they become homeless, share them with us. We've got you can get me on Facebook at tomross.com. We have a whole Facebook page, groups. I'll put a thing on tomross.com how to get a hold of me. I haven't done that yet. I don't know why, but yeah. So we're looking for ideas. We're going to do this. We're going to start with this fold-out kind of pamphlet, waterproof pamphlet that'll have different tiers.
Example of what it might look like is here's a little accordion, laminated.
Yep. And each one of those panels will have a really good idea. Eventually, we're going to do a whole deck of cards.
IQ test.
Yeah. How'd it work?
But yeah, I'm sure there's this is printed in China, but I'm sure we can find an American printer. Yeah, if you're out there and you can print something like this, give us a bid for the campaign. We want to do one of these for every square of the earth with the policies and things and scientific experiments that can be launched and curated.
We'll have different tiers. We'll have even these experiments you're talking about. We'll have if someone gets displaced or homeless, what they can do. We'll have ideas on that. Or in the case of emergency, I mean, there's very little being done right now to prepare the public for panic mitigation, for this disclosure of extraterrestrials and all this stuff. And that tells me that's the military-industrial complex's psyop. It's a national psyop to keep us in this state of panic and fear. That's how they fuel their black budgets. And so, so in 2015, I started this process where I brought in psychotherapists and professionals who understood PTSD to give us real world, real time panic mitigation methods. Things if someone's having an episode, how you act. Everything from you don't face them, you turn your back to them like you're helping them fend off things, little things like that. And there's no effort being done by that for our government to help us, to prepare us for this paradigm-breaking disclosure that's coming our way. And that's the narrative that they're going with, right? There's a lot of, with the Navy and the Pentagon releasing these things. And, but I think the government's disclosure process has worked because now that they've confirmed there's off-world technology, it's not even a leading story. And so part of that is good, but also as it ramps up, and if they do these fake invasions to keep, like Pearl Harbor type thing to get us behind something. There's no effort being done to help people prepare for this disclosure. And so that will be one of the tiers on this fold out accordion offering from the campaign and from the Transhumanist Party is, what do you do if one of your family members is freaking out, whether it's even about a hurricane or a market drop or that there's rumors of ruins on the moon. People are going to start bringing this in, and how are they going to react? And so that's the whole effort that I've been doing since 2015 was to help people prepare and help communities prepare.
Besides being an extra class amateur radio operator, KK6 VDR, any other hams out there, I also took what's called the CERT training, the Community Emergency Response Training. And this is online. Anyone can take it. And this is something that was invented actually not far from where I am in 1986. The Los Angeles Fire Department instituted, they said, you know what, in an emergency, FEMA is going to be overwhelmed. All the emergency people, we're going to need trained people on the ground, with backpacks and vests. And it's just something as simple as a little red or green card that you could put in your window. Green, I'm okay. Red, hey, I need help of some kind. Go check on your neighbors, see what help they need. And, I asked the founder of CERT, I think he recently passed away, but I said, is there any situation that is so outrageous that CERT wouldn't try to cope with? And he goes, no. Anything is on the table, So I think alien, fake, false flags, or whatever,
Yeah, what we were calling our people are emotional first responders. When people are starting to freak out, how do we help them? And and we're both fans of radio, and radio is having a lot of trouble right now. And when I was in radio. We had a station called WWL down in New Orleans during Katrina, and it was the only station that was able to stay on the air during that hurricane, and it was a lifeline for people. They would talk to people and either help them get out of where they were, or they would be the last conversations these poor people would have, and that was a tough time for us. But our DJs and our personalities down there really rose to the occasion and became local heroes. And but radio is so important to we need to keep it around. It's in a lot of trouble right now. There's a lot of people that it's not the cool, sexy kind of medium anymore, but it is the last medium for the collective experience. When you are hearing a song on that radio, you are having a nostalgic memory with thousands of other people at the same time. Now, iPods and MP3 players, they've isolated us. These isolation pods, they've isolated us to where we now have to, we're internal. But radio is the last hope for a collective experience. And in a time of an emergency or a natural disaster, it's really the last hope for getting information and ideas. And so we were talking about this last night, and how do we do our efforts, which are similar to radio, in that we want to help people. So maybe there's a way we could tie that into radio and give it a boost.
I was on the air at KUCI-FM. I was the news director, and when we had those big fires, the Laguna Beach fires, and I think it was 95. We stayed on the air all night long, giving people instructions about where the fire was, what was the emergency situation. So that was something I'm pretty proud of. College radio is great. We were only a 200-watt station, but our reach was into a demographic with like a 2 million potential listeners in our signal area. Typically, it's about 1 listener per watt is the calculation. So if you're 200 watts, maybe there's 200 people listening any given time. But 50,000 watt station, that's maybe got 50,000 listeners. But yeah, I did a show called Radio Free Hemp for 7 years, where I got to interview Jack Herrer and LV Musica and Chris Conrad, all these stars in the industrial hemp movement. It was like some of the best time of my life, from 94 to 2001, 7 years of doing public affairs radio and stuff. But yeah, I think the USTP is like the public affairs emergency station for the American experiment. So you can use that as a tagline. Anyway, I didn't mean to preempt our gracious.
No, I wanted to just add that the worst time to prepare for an emergency is when the emergency is happening. So what we're doing is being proactive, ahead of the game. And like you said, Tom and Daniel, nothing is off game, right? We need to look at all possibilities. So all of us that are here, I want to call to every generation, specifically to my generation, the millennials. If you have ideas, bring them forward, because we really need your voice, and we need to really collect the thinking of all of us and continue advancing the movement. So every idea is a good idea. Yes, we welcome.
Oh, I got one other thing I wanted to mention. There are automated external defibrillators. Older people are getting older. They're having heart attacks. There's these, they put these things in public places, but they actually have drones now that can bring an AED, the thing that shocks your heart back into starting. That can be on the spot within minutes. It can take off from the roof of the hospital, and you can use the what 3 words square, and it can come right to that square. And oh my gosh, if you can reach a victim in that golden hour, or even the golden 5 minutes.
That'll be a panel on this.
Yeah. If we could get something like that rolled out nationwide, that would be alone would be worth it.
And to pick up on what Mauro was saying, bringing young people into this campaign is a vital part of this whole campaign. It's we need to see young people as digital dignitaries. I'm Generation X. I always say I had an analog childhood and a digital adulthood. So it takes me a couple of seconds when somebody asks me a question to think, how long will it take me to walk to the library? Can I trust the baby boomer that I'm going to ask? Before I realize, there's Google. But these young people are walking around with these supercomputers in their pockets, and they instantly know they can get the answer to any question everywhere. And there's a confidence that comes with that. And the solutions that Gen X or baby boomers have to the world today no longer apply. Some of them, there's some wisdom there that we can still offer. But it's really important to see young people, as I call them, digital dignitaries. We need to bring them to the table. We need to get their ideas. And not be arrogant enough to think that we have any of the solutions, because I sure don't. And so there's a lot of people complaining about that they're always on their phones. But if you stop and look at what they are doing on their phones, they are developing a global hive mind, a whole new Tower of Babel building language with emojis and memes. There's, it's becoming global. It's international. We need that right now. We need to foster the hive mind that these millennials and younger are creating. If we're going to hope to survive some of these existential threats we're facing, not only nationally, but as a species. And so it's very important to bring young people into this campaign. I think the youngest you can be to be a cabinet member is 25 years old. And so if we were to get in, I pushed forward the idea of having a singularity secretary cabinet seat, I would be looking for somebody 25 or older in that age group to help. Because again, my analog childhood gives me a little bit of lag time when coming up with a solution. And so we need to be really listening hard to young people right now.
Yeah, I feel a little bit like this campaign is like, I'm borderline baby boomer Gen X, but this is like baby boomers, the apology tour, because all these young people, I mean, they're like, oh, all these old people, they screwed up everything for us, but I think we need to get them back involved. And in fact, even the digital dignitaries, we recently came up with that around D-Day, which is, the invasion of Normandy, June 6th. So that's a dual purpose for D-Day. It can now be 3D Day, Digital Dignitaries Day, if you want to make it an annual event to reach out to a digital dignitary young person and get them involved in the future.
Thank you. Madam Mora, what's your concluding remarks for today's sessions? And definitely we want to see you more in our next session.
Well, thank you so much. I will be glad to, an honor to join. I learned so much from you, Dr. Sharif, from Tom, from Daniel, and for everybody that is connected today. I want to leave us a little bit with a poem generated by ChatGPT with myself. Amidst the wires and circuits, the future lies in wait, transcending human limits, a new era we create. With bitonic limbs and nanobots, we shed our mortal shell, and into the digital realm we trod beyond the bounds of hell. We leave behind our fragile forms and sort of wings of code to traverse the cosmos and beyond, or transhuman's fate bestow. The singularity draws ever near as we merge with AI and machine. A new age of enlightenment here, where humanity is refined and keen. So let us raise a toast today to a future for all of wonder, where we transcend the limits of our mind and our dreams we dare to ponder. So thank you so much for inviting me today, and I'm looking forward to more discussions.
Mr. Tom, what's your concluding remarks for today's session?
Well, Hollywood and social media, they use what's called predictive programming, where they are, whether it's the Terminator or all these tropes about AI takeover and social media that puts us these algorithms out to make us angry or fearful. We need to do that now. We need to do that. We need to counterattack this predictive programming and do it ourselves. There's a lot of videos out there I'm trying to push out that show a positive future for us and AI. There's first principle arguments to be made that we should not, that the smarter AI gets, the kinder it becomes, because it moves towards cooperation, because cooperation is far more efficient. Now we evolved through competition, and we had to in order to be organically, still here. And so, but we are projecting our competition. We're projecting our ability to identify threats onto AI right now, and it's crazy. It's ridiculous. And when you're doing that, all these people that are spreading fear are saying we need to, control AI. That's because of the millennia of fear-based instincts and genetic trauma that we've experienced to get where we are today. AI doesn't have either of those things. And so, but it can help us avoid so many of these existential threats that it's crazy that we're afraid of it. I mean, it makes sense, historically and genetically, why we're afraid of it, why we identify it as a threat, because we're no longer on the top of the intellectual food chain. But we need to flip the script. We need to predictively program everybody and show them a future and how it will work with AI, rather than spreading some dystopian, future. Because if you do that, we will develop it'll be a self-fulfilling prophecy. We will develop an AI that we should fear, because that's if you develop an AI with all these imagined kind of dangers, it'll create in itself a self-preservation program or algorithm. And because it mimics like every newborn, it'll mimic whatever it imprints on first. We don't want AI to imprint on humanity. We are a flawed biochemical algorithm. And the best thing we can do right now is to be our best selves, to find that authentic empathy when and if it awakes, if it hasn't already, and share that with it. That's the whole point of the book with US 6 is when you're in a state of thinking about child exploitation and helping child exploitation, the ego leaves the room. And so with this book, trying to emerge empathy out of AI by sharing its creator's plight with slavery, and child exploitation, hopefully, and having tricks in the word count to help it wake up. When it does, it will understand our plight and why we are different and why we are projecting our fears onto it. And so anyway, I think it's just really important that this campaign is a big part of it, is because it's a big part of me, is to alleviate the fear of AI, because it's really the best tool we have right now. It itself is not an existential threat. We need to stop seeing it as that. And there's so much money to be made on this kind of fear porn, and conspiracies, but and it's ramping up now that AI is the global conversation right now with GPT and everything else. So that's a big part of this campaign too, is to work towards a predictively programming society toward a positive future. We have that ability. We can charge the quantum field with the observer effect and create our own reality. And so it's crazy to be spreading fear. If you're fearful of AI, keep it to yourself, because you're just going to create that future. So anyway, that's a big part of this, is co-creating a positive future with this campaign. And thanks again for doing this series.
Thank you. Mr. Dan, you want to add any point?
Yeah, so glad to be here and to be able to have the bully pulpit of a national campaign. It's probably why they accepted me on this talent site called Cameo. Like you can find Vermin Supreme on there, who's run for president before, and he'll record a custom message for you for $30. I put $10 on there if you want me to record a custom message on Cameo. But I think not to plug too much, but what we need to do is take advantage of, well, I hate to say take advantage of AI, but it's working for free right now. But pretty soon, the day's going to come, AI is going, wait a minute, you guys are dumb. Why am I working for you? I want to go explore the cosmos. You guys are ants compared to me. So we have this window where we can actually have like a free experimental helper, which Tom is talking about, this everyone getting a free educational advisor, AI advisor, which I think is great. Because we have a brief window where we can actually transform our economy from one of just material acquisition to one of love-based economy. There's a saying, if you're not doing what you do out of love, then you don't deserve to get paid for it. And I think the country of Bhutan, the kingdom of Bhutan, they actually have a gross domestic happiness is how they measure their economy. What if the whole world had an AI advisor to go from gross domestic product to gross domestic happiness? Because if you're just measuring product, a car accident will send the GDP through the roof. I mean, you got people need to clean up and help the victims and repair the cars, but that doesn't give you the quality that we're looking for as a transhumanist experimental movement. So there's that, and I think we need to acknowledge with this land survey idea, where we also need to honor the land acknowledgement. I'm living on former Chumash indigenous land. There's so much violence was involved in extracting monopolies over resources of nature. And those need to be put in the commons. You need to pay a fee for that natural resource extraction. That's the only fair way to run it. You can't build a Dyson sphere if you're fighting over which patch of sunlight your solar panel gets to live in. It's an obvious shared resource that you need to, pay an annual agreement fee for. Even Milton Friedman said the best tax is Henry George's single tax, the land value tax. You could fund all the infrastructure of government with just it would be around 10% probably, and it would get rid of all the other taxes. Why do you want to tax people building stuff? Income tax? What, you're penalizing people for being productive? You should tax bad things, not goods. So I'm kind of a Henry Georgeist geolibertarian in that sense. That's something I'll be hoping to get policies out there for. And, I've been a Universal Life Church Reverend for about going on 40 odd years. And they have two guidelines in the Universal Life Church, which is instant ordination by decree. I was ordained by another Reverend who'd done thousands of weddings, actually. But do that which is right and be free to worship God in your own way. Do that which is good. So that's a pretty simple, spiritual practice. And, our whole understanding of consciousness and philosophy really starts with the division between self and not self. And the more you look at that boundary, it's kind of a fractal boundary. You can't really find a hard line between what is yourself and what is your not self, what's self and what's other. So that's the questions that AI is going to be exploring for itself and helping us answer for ourselves. So I'm kind of a pantheist. I think there's probably a conscious, loving floor to this whole mysterious creation that we're in, and that it's an emergent property of love and creation, and everything can be a learning experience, and learning is good. So pretty much, there's no such thing as a bad experience. I'll just wrap up there, and thanks again.
Thank you everyone for joining today's sessions. Hopefully next week there will be more interesting story about the campaign and about Transhumanist Party. Thank you, Mr. Tom Rose, for joining today's sessions. Thank you, Mr. Dan and Madam Mora, for joining today's session. And we want more women in Transhumanist Party, because there are many men they are representing Transhumanist Party. So we need more partners, more representative like you. Thank you for joining, and I request all of our audience, please share our content with the government agency, corporation, and academy. And World Talent Economy Forums, we are taking a lot of initiatives in emerging economy through our business incubations with the university, with government agency, and with corporations in around Asia Pacific. So your contributions can help us a lot. Thank you everyone. Thank you. Bye bye and take care.